Hey, ladies and gentlemen, it's 6:30, and as chair of the Guilford, Town of Guilford Selectboard, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by Governor Scott as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and pursuant to Addendum 6 to Executive Order 01-20 and Act 92, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. In accordance with Act 92, there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting. However, in accordance with the temporary amendments to the open meeting law, I confirm the following four pieces of information. We are providing public access to the meeting via video conferencing. The address of the video conference call is https://meet.google.com/n as in Nancy HO-IKZC-ETJ. We are using Google Meet for this remote meeting and this platform, and you can also call in to this meeting with using the following number: 617-675-4444, and the PIN for that call is 364-536-869-2597 #. We've also put this information on the town's website, and you can find that information at the following town website site, which is guilfordvt.net. We are also providing another phone number in case you can't get in using the one that I just gave you, and that number is 603-558-0891. And finally, we will continue this meeting if necessary. In the event that the public is unable to access this meeting, it will be continued to a time and place certain. Please note that because this is a remote meeting, we take the roll on all of our votes, and let's get the meeting started. Recognizing the public, I see Don McLean is here and Leslie Malwin. Hi, Leslie. Nice to have you. The rules of procedure, we have rules of procedure which govern how the public interacts with the select board. The basic premise of those rules is that we are civil and that we raise our hand, and there's an electronic means to do that when we want to be called upon. Are there any additions to tonight's agenda?
Yes, Richard, we've got three additions. One is coming from the Cemetery Commission. We have Veranda here to share that with us later. The Select Board will need to make a decision on a grant amendment approval, which I'll share with you. And then we'll have a very brief discussion about an update on the Guilford Free Library architect's situation. And that's it. And I think we should add those at the end of new business after the speeding on Sweetspawn Road.
All right. Thank you, Peter. Are there any changes to the agenda order?
I don't have any, Richard.
Very good. Then I would love a motion to approve the minutes of last meeting. Veranda so motions. Do I have a second? Zahn seconds. Is there any discussion? Okay, I shall take the roll then. Zahn?
Aye.
Veranda?
Aye.
Rusty?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Richard? Aye. That motion passes. Thank you very much. Do we have Danny on the phone? No. All right, Peter, are you, do you want to give it, or should we just skip it for tonight?
I can't give it because I was expecting Danny to be here, so
right.
We'll have to just skip it. But we'll actually, technically, because it was warned on the agenda, somebody would have to make a motion to.
I motion to table that item.
Thank you, Richard.
Okay, do I have a second? Zahn seconds it. Is there any discussion? I'll take the roll then. Zahn?
Aye.
Rusty?
Aye.
Veranda? Michael?
Aye.
Aye.
Richard? Aye. Okay, that has been tabled unless Stan, it's tabled until next meeting unless Stan gets on the phone. Very good. New business. Speeding and AT traffic on Sweet Pond. Peter, do you want to speak to that, or?
I mean, I think Veranda and I can jointly speak to it. Just very briefly, Veranda and I were both approached by a resident concerned about speeding on a particular section of Sweet Pond, and the specific concern is, well, there were two concerns shared with me. One is speeding because just in general from motor vehicles, and that there's a lot of families that live along the section of Sweet Pond just down from Guilford Center Road, or up, I should say. And so particularly with the weather getting nicer, there's a lot more kids playing outside. So there's concern about that. And the secondary concern that was shared with me was about an increase in ATV traffic that has also been speeding. And per our soon to be enacted ATV ordinance that was updated by the Selectboard, that ATV traffic on the town roads is not permitted. The only exceptions are if you're crossing the road to get to another ATV trail, or if an ATV is actively being used for farming purposes, are the two primary exceptions.
So, and Peter, you told me that there's really nothing we can do, and I suggested that we could do signs, and I think that
Yep.
that's what we should do, right?
So those are that's the real thing that we can do, because the Vermont State Police has been reluctant to patrol on our gravel roads due to time, is a primary reason. And that contract, as you all know, is ending at the end of June. So I can approach Danny if the select board wishes me to about getting some slow children at play or other similar type signs to be put up on that section. I don't know if Veranda has any input.
Veranda, did you want to say something?
Yes. In addition to what Peter reported, there were two particular complaints that I heard. One was about construction vehicles heading toward or from new construction sites on Sweet Pond Road, that, you know, the 35-mile-an-hour speed limit is very fast, especially for those large vehicles. A second issue was at Sweet Pond, the actual pond, that the speed limit there is also 35. The road is exceedingly narrow. And I'm wondering if we would be able to get some kind of acknowledgement that this is a recreation area. When I was looking at the VTrans website, I know that they discourage towns from putting up signs like children playing, which they said would suggest that such and such a place was a recreation area. But Sweet Pond is a recreation area. So I'm wondering whether there might be some help for that particular part of the road.
Well, I would like to suggest then that, because talking about it isn't going to do anything, but I would like to ask you, Peter, and Dan, to see what signage that we can put up there, both in regard to ATV. Is there possibility to say ATV speed limit and car traffic? So that's all I'm asking you to do, is just to investigate it and bring back us a report on what it is that we can do.
Okay, sounds good. I will put that down. I'll chat with Dan about that. I've actually have a meeting with him later this week, so I will chat with him about it. And speaking of which, it looks like Dan has joined us by phone now, I believe. Dan, is that you? I don't know if he can hear me. Dan Zabruski, did you join us?
I don't think so. So we have to move on then. Thank you very much. Is there any other further discussion about the signs? Peter and I discussed this before the meeting, and Peter said that he didn't really know of anything that the select board could do other than signage. So now what we're going to do is look into the signage.
Oh, that's Dan.
Can you hear me?
Yep, Dan, hi. we're going to put you
Hi,
right
yep.
on the, so we tabled you, but now we're going to untable you and just look for a highway report.
Sure. There ain't really much has changed since the last time I talked to you. We were grading roads and doing some culverts and cleaning culverts, and I got some more roads to grade, but it's so dry and dusty, it's not gonna hold. We need some rain to give us a little moisture. So
And that's it?
that's about it, unless you guys got any questions. I heard you talking about the Sweets Pond sign.
Yeah. I asked
can meet-
Peter if you and he could talk about it and do some investigating about what the potential of putting signs there is.
Well, we can do that, but my things in the past with signs, no one pays attention to them anyways.
Right.
You know, it's just another thing. It's like a lot of times we'll be out working and have road work ahead signs, and somebody will stop and say, "Where's your signs?" Or you almost just ran over it. So they just don't pay any attention. So.
Well, let's see what happens when you two talk and see what you could recommend. Okay.
Yeah, it's no problem.
Thank you, Dan.
No, we got.
Oh,
I got a couple spots. It's kind of early to start mowing, but I got a couple spots. The grass is getting a little high. Probably this week I'm gonna send the tractor out and do a little mowing here and there in places.
Great.
So,
Miranda, did you want to
Yeah.
say something?
Oh, I just wanted to say that I left a thank you note for the road crew
Well-
from the Select Board and the Conservation Commission. And since nobody was there, I just stuck it in the door, and I hope you guys got it.
yeah, we got it. Thank you very much. And Jimmy and Chris really appreciated it. Made them feel pretty good.
Great. Okay, on to speaking of
Can I add one thing?
yes, please.
I think it's worth noting that Green River Covered Bridge project is underway. And
Yes, it is.
I had a few citizens just ask if pedestrian traffic was permitted, and I checked in with Danny, and I mean, is that still the case, Danny? You're okay with people walking through?
Yeah, they were letting people go through today. I mean, they did pretty good. They got here late this morning, but they made some pretty good progress on it. So they got the front of it all stripped off. They got the main carrying timber that got busted, and I think they got the other one that was buggered up pretty well off too. So hopefully they'll start putting things back together again.
Great.
Thank you,
But
Dan.
they made some good headway on it today. So
Great.
All right, good to hear. Thanks.
Okay, so we were in the garage, and the garage actually is our next item on the agenda, and the garage siding is.
Richard, did you want to skip the other new business to move on to that, or do you want
Oh,
to
I'm
talk
sorry.
about
No, I'm sorry. I didn't write it down underneath there. I put it somewhere else.
Okay, so the next item was the cemetery appointment.
Right. Brandon, yes.
Oh, sure. Okay, we were very lucky that Peter Hannon has agreed to join the Cemetery Commission in addition to being responsible for much of the mowing there. And so we just wanted to report that to the Select Board for approval.
And as I understand it, the Select Board doesn't appoint the cemetery commissioners.
Yeah, that's correct. Yep, that's correct. The cemetery commission is the only commission, town commission, that has the authority to appoint their own members per state statute. All other commissions have to be appointed by Select Board members.
So do we need an official approval of that appointment, or
we just wanted, I mean, it's my understanding that this was just a courtesy.
Okay,
That's
thank you.
correct.
So
We
noted.
wanted you to know that.
Very good. And Peter, you want to talk about the grant amendment?
Yes, so hopefully the select board remembers this is probably a month ago now for the planning grant for the Guilford Free Library due to some archaeological findings. We needed a stage 1 archaeological dig, and so I worked with Isaac Wagner, and we submitted an amendment to the existing grant agreement to see if we could get some extra funding to cover that expense. The day after our last select board meeting, 2 weeks ago, I was notified that the amendment was approved. So we need the select board, and I unfortunately just added this late today, but need the select board to re-sign the grant agreement resolution that you signed previously. And if somebody were to make the motion that states, now therefore be it resolved as follows, that the select board of Guilford accepts and agrees to the terms and conditions of said grant agreement, and that Peter Rude, town administrator, is hereby designated as a person with overall administrative responsibility for the VCDP activities related to this grant agreement, and that 3, Peter Rude, town administrator, who is the town administrator, sorry for the redundancy, but that's their document, hereby designated as the authorizing official to execute the grant agreement and other related documents as may be necessary to secure these funds.
Do I have a motion? Thank you, Zon. Do I have a second? Thank you, Veranda. Is there any discussion?
Just one quick thing. What did they find there to start the historical site?
They found glass and they found a belt buckle. Nothing of significance. Did you hear me, Rusty?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. They didn't find anything of any value. And they didn't find anything that would inhibit the addition of the library being put on that land, which is a nice thing for us. And it's wonderful that the state has paid for the archaeological survey, which we just voted on. So it's already been done. We're voting on the amendment to the initial contract.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. And speaking of the library,
Richard, you need to take your final vote. You had a motion and a
Oh,
second, but you
thank
didn't
you.
take the vote.
I'm going to, did I say any further discussion? Okay.
I think we just had the discussion.
All right. Zon,
Aye.
Veranda,
Aye.
Rusty,
Aye.
All
Michael,
right.
Richard, aye. That motion carries. Thank you very much. So then I was going into the library. As you know, we voted to go forward with seeking architectural consultation on the library addition. We had a preliminary design, which needs to be much more sophisticated and developed. And I wanted you to, and we voted on sending out an RFP. We've had, how many, Peter? 5 responses?
5, that's correct, yes.
And they're from very good architects. And as you know, that there's a library addition committee, which consists of 3 trustees of the library and myself. And I thought that Michael would be a good person, given his engineering background and working with bids and so forth, to join the scoring committee on scoring the RFPs, to bring back a recommendation to the select board. So I wanted the select board to know that Michael has agreed to be on the scoring.
And puppy.
And the scoring we're hoping to get the scoring done. So, I'm sorry, I left out somebody. John, I guess his last name is escaping me right now.
The architect?
No, on the
No.
library trustee. Anyway, it's
I'm
Isn't
blanking
that
out too,
fun?
Richard. There's John and Nika.
John and Nika and
Thank you, Veranda. Yes, it's John Shaw.
John Shaw,
Thank you, Brenda.
Shaw, Nika and Kathy and Michael and myself will be scoring and then making
As-
a recommendation to you. But I also wanted to say that if anybody, any of the select board members want to see those responses to the RFP, let Peter know and he will send them to you, and you're welcome to give your opinion for sure.
And Richard, don't forget that both Isaac and myself are also on the scoring committee.
Right, that's right. So Isaac, who is our consultant, is and who's very good at this, and did a very good job with seeking out the architects, is also on the scoring committee. Any questions or comments? So if you do want to see those responses, let Peter know. Very good. Okay, now we're on to the garage renovation. The garage, it's not a renovation really, it's siding for the garage. And Peter, do you want to describe this?
Sure, I can. I mean, I'm sure we can get input from Michael and Dan as well. So last week, Michael and Dan and Richard and I all met with Griffin Tussaud, who was the contractor who did the roof on the garage last fall, as his company also does a lot of siding work. And we met with him as the select board had requested at a previous meeting, just to get his professional input as far as what he saw from the existing situation would be the most effective, both for cost purposes as well as for the needs of the garage for siding options. So we had a nice chat with Griffin, and he answered quite a few questions for all of us. And he was going to share via email some narrowed down options with the four of us that met with him. So that's kind of the summary of what happened.
And I had brought it on the agenda because I thought we needed to vote on going forward with siding the garages.
Well, the next step would be to put together an RFP to put out to solicit bids from contractors. And as Richard noted, generally we do try to get select board approval for RFPs prior to putting them out. And if that's the case, if you are in favor of that, then Michael and Richard have agreed to work with me after I create a draft to review it before sending it out.
So we don't need a motion then, right, Peter? But we need, or do we need a motion to go forward?
In the past, you guys have, yes, in the past, you guys have had a motion to say, yes, we approve, writing an RFP and putting it out.
I would like us to do that. Do I have a motion? Brenda's motions. Do I have a second? Okay. I can't see you, Rusty, so you might be seconding, but I can't see you. And I want to point out that that siding is in the capital improvement plan that the town developed. So we're not doing anything that is not in our budget. Is there any discussion of this? Okay, I'll take them.
Well, I guess, I mean, are we thinking we're going to stay? I mean, the goal is to stay within the amount we have budgeted for this year, or, I mean, I could see the potential for it to
Maybe a little more.
spill over.
I mean, yeah, both in my phone conversation with Griffin as well as when we were waiting for everyone to arrive, Griffin did, because he was asking how much we had budgeted for it. And the budgeted amount, we have to remember, was based off of the recommendation of the engineer who did the capital needs assessment 3 years ago. And obviously we had no idea about the pandemic and the changes to the cost of building materials as a result of that. And so he suggested that we try to be flexible with the cost. I mean, obviously for those who were present, he tried to recommend things is in a cost efficient manner as possible, but it's still, I think, going to be more than the 36,000 that was budgeted for this project.
Right, but we can't do anything at this point about that. What we just agreed to do is to go forward with the RFP, and let's see what the RFPs tell us, and then we would have to consider the budgetary matters.
Yep, and as the part of the language we have in every RFP is, if all of the bids are far exceed our anticipations, you do have the right to cancel the bid, the project, if that's what you see as most fiscally responsible for the town.
Okay, but thank you, Select Board, for moving forward with the siding RFP.
I'd like to, the 1st of June, they're coming in to spray for ants and bees for the garage.
That's That's good because the NCBs are doing a number on it.
Yeah, they'll be there the 1st of June. They're gonna do all the buildings.
Thanks, Dan.
Richard, please take your final vote. You got a motion and a second, but you didn't take the vote.
Oh, gee, I'm not with it tonight. Sorry. Zon? Rusty, I think it's because I can't see Rusty. Rusty?
I'm here. Hi.
Okay. Veranda?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Richard? Aye. Okay, so that passes. Thank you very much. And we'll look forward to getting the RFP together. The next item on our agenda is something that I put on, and I've been reading a lot about ARPA, the American Rescue Plan funding that will be coming to states and then distributed to towns. And I just wanted to recommend to the select board and anyone else who's on this call to go to the Vermont VCLT website and look at that, because there are very strict criteria for the distribution of this money. The criteria is both about being related to the pandemic. So there's no projects, as far as I can see, that are not related to the pandemic that would be funded. That's one. And then there are I think 4 or 5 categories that the funding can be distributed to in a town. So I wasn't inciting a discussion at this point. I was trying to stimulate that you go to VLCT, which has a number of FAQs about ARPA funding. It has a lot of information. It's very good information. And I don't know whether anything has happened in the state that affects ARPA. I mean, something serious and significant since the last time I looked at the VLCT website. Do you know, Peter?
Well, no. So to my knowledge, no. We're waiting on 2 up. So just as brief background. So last week, Richard and I both participated in a workshop with updates about ARPA. So we are still here in Vermont. We're still waiting on 2 things. We're waiting on an update from the feds for municipalities smaller than 50,000 people. They did make a ruling 2 weeks ago for states and municipalities up down to as small as 50,000 people, but they had not made a final ruling for smaller towns like us. The other thing is that we are still waiting to hear what our state legislature has agreed on with our governor, because the way that the feds have made the ruling is that the state legislature has to work with the governor to decide how those funds will be used. And the governor was waiting to hear back from his colleagues.
Yeah, the webinar that Peter and I participated in, or listened to, I should say, is also available on the VLCT website, and it's quite packed with information. And you can find it because the webinar was last week, and it was called something.
I can send out the link to everyone, Richard.
Right, great, thank you. And it's not very long, and it had the executive director of VLCT. It had the national director of the National League of Cities and Town on. So it was quite informative about how the money might be being able to be used. Are there any questions or further comments about that? At some point, I imagine we will have a town kind of symposium if money does come to our town.
Rick Zamor has raised his hand for a question.
Oh, yes, Rick. Are you there, Rick?
Now can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry. Given that you've heard that the spending has got to be related to COVID, but you have had no guidance from the state or the feds, that there's a disconnect there somewhere.
It's guidance from the feds that, in other words, Congress has said that this money has to be somehow related to the impact of the pandemic on a town or the town's institutions or the town government, etc.
Okay, so that's pretty broad.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
and if you go to VLCT slash ARPA, you can find all the information. But that was a congressional mandate of how the funds can be spent. I saw two general mandates. One is that it has to be related to the impact of the pandemic, and two, it has to be in various categories. The one that's stands out of my mind is, for instance, health services is one whole category. Housing is another.
Okay.
And I think there are three other ones.
Yep, that's correct, Richard.
It's,
and I
it's
think
pretty
that,
restrictive.
yeah, it is very restrictive. Don also has his hand raised, Richard.
Don?
Don, you're muted.
We can't hear you, Don.
Go.
There you go.
Okay, so just another reminder, we're not sure yet, obviously, on the guidelines, but of course, the Broadbrook Community Center is very interested in the possibility of any funding. And we've looked at a number of different things. There was some stuff about electric vehicle infrastructure, weatherization. I saw a lot of categories that didn't seem specifically pandemic related. And nonprofits are mentioned in a number of different places.
Right.
Realize-
But that all feeds up to the fact that the overriding, one of the overriding criteria is
Yes.
that it has to be related to the impact of the pandemic, and it says that a number of times in the governance that Peter and I were reading, and that was put up at the webinar.
Yeah.
And if
And
you
it
go
was
to
repeated. It was repeated numerous times at the webinar that
Yeah.
Richard and I listened to.
Yeah. Well, we understand that the guidelines are still perhaps not, fully known, and we just
No,
wanna-
they are fully known. These are
Okay.
congressional. So
We
in other
just-
words, when Congress passed the act,
Yes.
these criteria were part of the act, that we're going to have all this money, but all this money has to fall under these particular categories.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, anyway, we just wanted to keep our foot in the door if there
Oh,
is.
sure. Yeah.
There was some stuff about economic recovery from, loss of business or nonprofits losing funds because of not being able to be open and so forth.
That's right. Yeah.
We're
So
hoping
that would be a pandemic impact for sure.
yeah, so that would perhaps
Yeah.
somewhat apply to.
In other words, if the BBCC, and I'm just hypothesizing here, lost income because
Right.
of the pandemic, there may be some way of applying for the fund, for some funds.
Yeah, and we obviously lost a small amount of rental income
Yeah.
during the pandemic, and so anyway, we just wanted to stay in line. And that was.
But please do read. You can actually read the legislation in the webinar and in other fact sheets. There were about 5 fact sheets that
Okay, good.
VLCT has put out.
Yes, I'll
Zon,
look-
do you want to say something, Zon?
Yeah, I just had a couple of questions quickly. Do we have a sense of whether or not this funding is coming automatically yet? Or is it the kind of thing that will be available that the town or some agency as part of the town would need to actually apply for the funds to draw them down from the state? Do we have a sense of that yet? I'm just wondering how proactive we need to be as a town, as the select board, about being ready for that, sir.
Well, there were a couple of things, yes, that were in the webinar that I found very useful, and to make a town prepared to receive the funds if we were, like, we needed a DUN number, we needed a special account. And Peter and I had a conversation after the webinar. We checked with Penny, and we do have those mechanisms in place to be able to receive the money if we were going to get the money.
In short, Zon, yes, this town has to actively request the funding from the state.
Right.
And also has to be prepared to receive it.
Correct.
Yeah, then I think I would recommend that. I mean, if there's of course, if we know timelines, then we probably need to figure out who's going to be making decisions about applying and when that's going to be done, because the last thing we probably want is 12 agencies from Guilford all applying for money and looking chaotic. If there's a way,
it's only the town can apply for Zon.
but
Only the town can request the funding.
all right, good. That's good to know. Thank you.
So the
So
reason that
how
I,
soon
the
do we
reason,
need to, decide what we want to spend it on? Like, what's
the reason I
timeframe?
put this on the agenda tonight was to start to incite a conversation like this, to keep it in our minds, and to let you know that Peter and I have been following the developments. I mean, because that webinar was specifically for town officials.
Thank you.
Yes.
So just one more issue. I know that in DV Fiber we're watching all this money come down, for instance, and it's set up in such a way that the day the money's available, there's a grant request into the office. So there's no waiting around. There's no chance of missing. So I just would encourage us to be prepared like that.
We're trying to be on the top of it as much as possible.
Great.
But I mean, a lot of it is dependent on what our state is going to do, and it's going to tell us how to
Right.
how to receive it, how to apply for it, and how to receive it.
Yeah, great. Good. Thank you.
Michael, did you want to
Can I
say
ask
something
one more
further?
question?
You sure?
I mean, thank you for taking the time to do the webinar. And so I'm just going to ask Peter and Richard. Sounds like you have the most knowledge about it so far, but do we know if transportation or recreation projects could potentially be eligible? And my thought being, it puts people to work, maybe who, have been out of work. So if it uses local labor, does that count as economic recovery? I mean, or is that a stretch?
Transportation is definitely one of the criteria under the overarching criteria. I mean, I remember transportation was there, and I think recreational facilities are there as well. Yes, they are.
So, well, I would slightly disagree with that. Recreation, yes. It really depends on how you're defining transportation. Like specific road projects, no. They were
That's
very
correct.
clear that they do not qualify under this. So whether that's repaving or putting up a new bridge, that does not qualify.
Right.
So
I was thinking
we're
of
still
transportation such as bus transportation and
that sort of
was-
thing. Certainly,
yeah,
yes,
that
that
was used
is.
as an example, actually.
Yep.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions? So we're on top of it, and one of the other things that we should be thinking about is to be ready. For instance, Rick and Don, who represent the BBCC, and Wendy, to be thinking about. I would highly recommend looking at the criteria and then thinking about with your boards what you might come up with that would fit that criteria, so that you'd be ahead of the game. And that's why I wanted it to be on the agenda.
So, so if I know of the Conservation Commission has a certain project, you want to know about it right now, or should I?
No, I don't want to know about it now. I think we should I think you should get the Conservation Commission, for instance, should amongst itself be ready to put forward an idea or a project.
Okay, I'll encourage them to do that. All right,
Yeah.
thanks.
Are we all set? Okay, very good. And Peter, you're going to send out the VLCT information to everyone on this call?
Yeah, I'll send it out to the select board members.
Okay. Wendy, do you need it? Would you need that information?
I'm sorry. If it will pertain to the rec commission, I would appreciate it.
Okay, and Don and Rick might want it too.
Sure, I mean, we can probably find it for ourselves, but it'd be delightful if you sent us the link to that.
All right, so I'll send it to those who are on the video. I'll send you a link to the VLCT information.
Oh,
just the remember is that the final decision on anything that happens comes down to the select board.
Right.
Okay, thank you all.
The
for that.
contribution.
Okay, Miranda, are you going to move to the warrants? We might have lost Miranda.
Yes, is
Oh, there
it?
you are.
Yes, I'm here.
I can't see you.
And so, oh, I'm sorry.
I just see
I
a big
just,
V.
yes, okay. I move that we approve the following warrants. Payroll week 5/16/21 for the sum of $5,926.24. Payroll week 5/23/21 for the sum of $5,867.87. Expense warrant 2021 for the sum of $66,661.70. Expense warrant number FW21A for $45.50. Expense warrant FW21B for the sum of $26.50 for a grand total of $78,527.81.
Do I have a second? Zahn seconds. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
I do just want to note for the select board that expense warrant 2021 was actually $92.45 higher than the original warrant I shared with you in the meeting folder. That is because the number you read, Veranda, is correct. I made sure of that.
Okay, any further discussion? Miranda?
Oh, yes. I mean, folded into this was the $35,000 for the Guilford Volunteer Fire Department. And also there was Wyndham Regional Commission road road erosion was for almost $10,000, and there was also some insurance. But those were the biggest ticket items. Oh, Frizzy Carpentry, $2,400 as well.
Thank you, Miranda. Peter,
So
did you
I
want
will,
to?
just as a reminder, the invoice for Wyndham Regional is actually going to be covered by a grant, but it's a reimbursement grant, so we have to just pay the invoice first. And that the select board previously approved sending the $35,000 to the fire department. So it's actually more informational than actually approval for that one. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. And speaking of the Wyndham Regional Council Commission, I think they're doing a splendid job in helping towns across the state with this ARPA business, because they put together with VLCT, and they've been having webinars on their own too. So I just think they're doing a splendid job. But that's sort of off the point. So we want any further discussion? I'll take the roll. Zahn. Veranda. Veranda.
Aye.
Rusty.
Aye.
Michael.
Aye.
Richard. Aye. Thank you very much. The warrants are passed. Any communications, Peter?
Yep. The only communication is from me, just as a friendly reminder to Guilford residents and select board members. There's a 3-week gap until our next select board meeting, just because of how the calendar falls. So the next meeting is on the 14th of June. Moving on, Richard, your action summary from your previous meeting is you agreed to purchase the new truck for the highway department. You certified the annual highway financial plan. You approved the Fort Dummer MOU for Guilford residents. You created the Abijah and Lucy Terry Prince Day on July 11th going forward. Dan was to contact Wright Construction about changing the date of their work, and found out, as the select board knows, that was not able to happen. I was to contact BCTV about outdoor recording and or hybrid meetings, which I did, and I shared that information with the select board. And it says that Peter and Veranda were to write a thank you note for Arbor Day. And I have to give all credit for that over to Veranda. She did all of that and sent it out to the Conservation Commission and to our road crew.
Thank you very much,
it's-
Ms. Porch.
My pleasure.
And it was a great help because I had a busy week last week. So I appreciate that, Veranda. As far as this meeting, you folks accepted the grant agreement. Dan and I are to investigate potential signage on Sweet Pond Road. I'm supposed to start writing an RFP, and I will share that with Michael and Richard for editing. And I am going to email a link for the VLCT ARPA information to everyone that was on this call tonight.
Great.
Peter, is it possible to include the chair of the Conservation Commission on that email?
Sure.
Okay, if that's appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, I can add them in, and it's not a big deal.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Any other further business comments? Then it must be that time. Zahn, you're on mute.
Definitely want to be off mute for this. I moved that we adjourn.
Okay. Do I
I'll
have a
second.
second? Michael seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, I'll take the roll. Zahn,
Aye.
Veranda, Rusty,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Richard, I. We are adjourned. Nice to see you all again. We won't see you for a few weeks, but a lot will be happening in between, and we're looking forward to your report in 3 weeks, Zahn.
Okay.
Yeah, great. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye,
Have a
Leslie.
good night, everyone.